Microbial Odyssey.
So, welcome to Microbial Odyssey. Today we'll be talking about the plant versus the animal cells. We'll look at the similarities and the differences between these type of cells. So, before we move deeply into the differences and similarities, let's first of all take a look at the structure of the plant cell. The plant cell here is a 3D structure of the plant cell, showing the internal structures which we call the organelles, the different parts of the cells and the organelles within the cell. Then take a good look at the structure, the shape of the cell. Then here we have the structure of the animal cell, showing the internal organelles and the different parts of the cell. Also take a good note of the shape of the cell as well. So we have the plant cell and then the animal cell. Now before we go deeper, let's do a little recall. Remember that we said that the prokaryotic cells are simple cells, while eukaryotic cells are complex cells. Prokaryotes are mainly single-celled organisms, while the eukaryotes can be single-cell or multicellular organisms. They have few basic organelles in the prokaryotic cells, while for the eukaryotic cells, they have more organelles that are double membrane bound. Then the DNA in the prokaryotic cell is floating, while so if you look at it here, the DNA here is floating, while for that of the DNA, for the eukaryotic organism, the DNA is found in the nucleus. Yes, and that is the basic difference between the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, the presence of this nucleus that is well defined, well structured, that contains a DNA, and this nucleus is absent here. So the DNA is just floating within the cytoplasm of the organism. So why did we go to look at this? We looked at a summary or a recall of the prokaryote versus eukaryote properties, so that we're able to classify the plant and animal cells properly. So based on what we have seen, are the plant and animal cells prokaryotes or eukaryotes? So the answer is they are eukaryotes. Why? Yes, they are eukaryotes because you look at both of them are multicellular. That is, they are made up of more than one cell. The plant and animals are made up of more than one cell, and they contain many organelles. So if you look at the animal cell, you can see the mitochondria, the central, the well-defined nucleus. You have the Golgi apparatus, the endoplasm, and so on. Same thing can be found there. So they have different or many organelles, and also they have a nucleus where the DNA is stored. So this is a well-defined nucleus where the DNA is stored, and then for the plant cell too, a well-defined nucleus where the DNA is stored. So both of them are eukaryotic organisms or eukaryotic cells. Now, when you look at the plants and the animals, they are very much different in their appearance, and this means that for them to have these contrasting differences, that means the cells also have some certain level of differences. Now let's look at the difference between the plant and animal cell. Okay, so first we look at the shape of the cells. So when you look at the plant cell, it has a rectangular shape, or what we call a boxy or regular shape. So it has a rectangular shape, which is made possible by the presence of the cell wall, which we'll look at or we'll see in the next slide. Then the animal cell, most times they are not as circular or as smooth as this. So they are usually oval or round, and they are irregular in shape. That is because they don't have a rigid cell wall binding the cell together. Okay? Now, the second difference we have is the cell wall. So I already talked about why the plant cell has a regular or rigid structure, which I said is because of the presence of the cell wall. So plants have cell wall, while the animal cells do not have cell wall. And this cell wall helps provide support for the plants. However, in the animals, their support is made possible by the presence of skeletons. Plants don't have skeletons, while animals do have skeleton. The structural support is made available or made possible in the plant cells or in the plants by the presence of the cellulose, while for the animals, they have the skeleton as their structural support. Next is chloroplast. Chloroplast is a structure found within the plant cells that helps in food production through the process of photosynthesis. So, chloroplasts are only found in plant cells and are not present in animal cells. So, because plants are generally autotrophs, so they undergo photosynthesis with the help of this chloroplast, while animals are heterotrophs. Basically, they can survive on organic source of nutrition. They will have the centrioles. Centrioles are not present in the plant cells, but they are present in the animals. These are just structures that are involved in the cell, in the animal cell during cell division. So how are they similar? How are they the same? Now, when you look at from the initial introduction where we talked about the eukaryotes and the prokaryotes, we came to a conclusion that both the plant and the animal cells are both eukaryotic cells. Then they both have the nucleus. The nucleus is the brain or the information center of the cell. So, nucleus, which is a basic property of the eukaryotic organisms, can be found in both the plant and the animal cells. And the nucleus is where the DNA, which controls majority of the activities within the cell, in fact, all activities within the cell, are housed or located. Then they both have the cell membrane. Cell membrane is the structure that protects inside of the cell. So it surrounds the cytoplasm of the cell, and that is the first membrane that you see after the content, protecting the contents of the cell. So here, the cell membrane is this, located in black in the plant cell, while for this, you can see that there is only one membrane found on the animal cell, which is the cell membrane. While the second membrane with the red arrow is the cell wall which we just talked about. Yes, so because of the absence of the cell wall in the animal cell, you can see that the animal cell has just a single membrane surrounding the cellular components, while for the plant cell, they have two. One is the cell membrane or the plasma membrane, then the second one is the cell wall. Both of them have cytoplasm. So cytoplasm ordinarily is simply the inside of the cell. Yes, it is a jelly matrix inside of the cell that contains or houses all other organelles. So the inside of this cell is known as the cytoplasm, and it is present in both the plant cell and the animal cells. Then both of them have the mitochondria. You can see the arrow pointing the mitochondria. Mitochondria is called the energy house or the powerhouse of the cell. So basically, this is where the respiration and the generation of ATP that is required for metabolism or cellular reactions within the cell are produced. So they are both found in both the plants and the animal cells. Then, yes, another tricky one. Both of them have ribosome. You can see the ribosome is denoted with a dot within the cytoplasm. Yes, they are both present in both the plant and the animal cell. So basically, the ribosome is the site for protein synthesis. Yeah. So, but there is a little twist because there are some plants that do not have ribosome, while some, majority, do have ribosome. So I have chosen to classify them, the ribosomes, as a common structure or organelle within both cells. Then we have another tricky one, the vacuole. The vacuole is this large structure that is found in the plant cell. Usually in the plant cell, the vacuole is very large and they are usually just one. That is because most of the functions, the plant cells that these vacuole carry out is usually more when compared to that of the animal cell. They help in detoxification, storage of food and water, and even structural support and both excretion and so on. So a lot of functions that they carry out. So but when you come to the animal cell, some animal cells do not even have the vacuole. So those that have usually have very small and they are usually more than one. So in summary, plant cells are rectangular or regular in shape, while animal cells are circular or irregular in shape. The plant cells have cell wall for support. The animal cells do not have cell wall since they already have the skeleton. Then the plant cell have the chloroplast photosynthesis. Animal cells do not have. Plant cells have one large cell vacuole, while the animal cells, some do not have, but those that have usually have just ones, and there are more than one. The absence of centriole in the plant cell, while the centriole is present in the animal cell. The plants store excessive foods in the form of starch, while animals store excessive food in the form of glycogen. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe.
Microbial Odyssey.